Hello friends, I'm Tim Wildsmith, and this is the story behind my song, Spaceman.
If I were a spaceman, you'd be my moon. I'd climb on my rocket.
So Spaceman is the first solo song that I've released in over a decade. I spent several years kind of performing as Tim Wildsmith, writing songs. I had a band of guys that I played with in Omaha, and a lot of people know me from those albums that I recorded from like '05 to 2011. And after that, I recorded a couple of albums with my friend Nicholas, a duo called The Foresters. Moved back to Nashville, married Becca. We did a hymns EP. We've done a lot of worship leading in the past 10 years. That's kind of been the most I've done as a musician. But I still love to sing and to play. I've written some songs over the years, but I've never recorded and released anything until now. And it just felt like Spaceman was the right song to do that with. So this song began, unlike any other song I've ever had. I woke up one morning and the first line of this song was in my head. I don't know where it came from. Like, I don't remember listening to something or watching something about space or anything like that. It was in my head. I literally rolled over in bed one morning and I sang the first line, an iteration of the first line to Becca. If I were a spaceman, you'd be my moon. And she was like, well, good morning. What's that? That's nice. What is that? I said, I don't know. It was just in my head. She's like, I love that. And later that day, she left the house. She went to run some errands or something, and I sat down here. This is our piano room in the front of our house, and I sat down at the piano and kind of plucked it out on the piano and was like, oh, okay. So I found the key I was in, key of B, and I was like, all right, this is cool. And I kind of played with this first song and kind of fleshed out this spaceman. Like, okay, I'm a spaceman. You're my moon. The rocket ship, the imagery. I kind of figured that out. I was like, okay. And then the second verse that I wrote was actually the third verse of the song about being a sailor, because I made this speech at our wedding reception where I raised a toast to Becca, and I said, Becca, you are God's North Star in my life. And I know that even on my darkest of nights, I can look to you, and you will lead me home. So I knew I wanted to write a North Star verse, and so I wrote that verse, and then I kind of left it there for a couple of days, and I was like, okay, I need to find another some sort of traveler. You've got a spaceman, you've got a sailor, what other traveling? And I tried a bunch of different things, and it didn't work. So over the course of a couple of days, I just had these two verses kind of lingering. And then one night we were just sitting on the couch laughing and cutting up and making each other, die laughing. And it just hit me, oh, a jester. Like, we love to laugh. It's like such an important part of our marriage and our friendship, our relationship. It's just like we both have kind of odd senses of humor. And so we laugh a lot. And so this idea of if I'm a jester, like, she would be my queen. I'm just trying to get her laugh. That's like my only goal in life. And so I wrote that verse. So I had these three verses, and I was like, okay, it seems like it's missing something. So again, I kind of let it sit for a couple of days. And it was probably about a week or two after I first wrote that first verse that the idea hit me of, oh, I'm not really any of these things. And what if I had a verse, like a final verse in the song where I like broke the fourth wall of the song, so to speak, and said, hey, I'm not actually any of this. This is really just about who you are. And about whatever I am, you are what I need. You are the focus of my life. And so that last verse just kind of fell out of me. And I pieced it together, and I was like, oh, to me as a songwriter, it was really such a great payoff there at the end to write these verses. You're kind of playing of, I might be a spaceman, I might be a jester, I might be a sailor, but then to kind of like tear that all down and be like, no, that's not what this is about. This is a love song. And really fun for me because I have written songs about Becca, but they're like breakup songs and heartbreak songs. There's a song called Second Chance from my album called A New Morning, which is about Becca. And a lot of people know me as a guy who wrote breakup songs and had heartbreak songs, and so it's really fun to be coming back and to be releasing a love song dedicated to my wife, inspired by my wife. And so it really, really special song. You can even see, if you watch the video, that at the fourth verse, I turn and I look at the camera. That's like that breaking of the fourth wall and saying, hey, like, I'm not really any of this stuff. What I'm trying to get here is that you are the most important thing to me. So I wrote this song, and like I said, I've written a lot of songs, but why did I decide to release it? I was like, man, I really love this. I really love what it does as a songwriter, the ode to my wife, all that. And so I called my friend Matthew Tobias. He's a friend that used to live in Omaha. He was in my band, played drums for me. I recorded a couple of my records with Matthew, and he lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico now. And Nicholas and I recorded the second Foresters album in Albuquerque with Matthew. And so I just called him up. I was like, hey, I have a couple of songs, and yes, I do have two songs. Spaceman is my first release this year. There's another one coming later this year that I'll tell you about later. But I have these songs. I sent him some rough demos that I made. He was like, dude, come on out. So I flew out there, and for Spaceman, it was like we started with the piano and the vocal. That's where it started. And we played around with some you hear kind of that ethereal, spacey stuff at the beginning and the end of the song. We played around with a bunch of different ideas, and nothing really clicked. And it was like, man, like I'm not the best piano player. I mean, like it's pretty simple. The song needs something. And I'm not sure if it was Matthew or me that threw out the idea of strings. And so we called up Chris Carmichael. Chris has been played on tons of records, and he basically does all of it himself. He arranges the strings, he performs the strings. So all of the strings that you hear on Spaceman were performed, actual strings, it's not digital, by one guy, Chris Carmichael. So he arranges all that, he performs all of it. He just basically threw the kitchen sink at it and gave us a lot of different stuff that we could work with. And so then we kind of crafted this song where, and great job by Matthew on mixing this, where the first verse is really small, and then the second verse we kind of add in a little bit. You can hear the strings are very playful, kind of a nod to the fact that the second verse is about a jester, and then it gets more sweeping on the verse about the sailor, and then we brought it all down for the beginning of that fourth verse, that reveal, the breaking of the wall, and then it builds back up. It's very cinematic, and I loved like that it took you on a kind of a little bit of a journey. So huge. It was basically the song. What you're hearing is me, piano and vocal, a little bit of noise that Matthew was creating with some digital stuff, and like there was like an old Casio keyboard from the '80s that he found at a pawn shop in in Albuquerque, and I went online and found like a manual and learned how to play things like chords and stuff on this weird Casio keyboard. But then Chris coming in with the strings, and we sent it to our friend Doug Van Sloan at Focus Mastering in Omaha, Nebraska. He mastered it for us. I'm thrilled with how this song turned out, and I'm not going back into music full time, but for somebody who spent so much of my life as a songwriter and a performing songwriter, it's fun to have something cool for people who loved my music before. Maybe people will find it now, but as the process of songwriting, recording this music, and now putting it out there for people, I'm just really proud of this one and excited to share it with you. So yeah, that's the story behind Spaceman.
If I were a spaceman, you'd be my moon. I'd climb on my rocket with my sights set on you. I'd soar through the stars and I'd race through the deep dark.